We all are familiar with the conspiracy theories, the government's plan for 9/11, the faked moon landing, and the billionaires from a race of blood-drinking, shape-shifting lizards. But the people who spread these ideas usually can't prove them. As the decades pass, however, some of the craziest stories start dragging themselves into the light, not as theories but as straight-up facts. And in this video, we're going to take a closer look at 15 mind-bending conspiracies that are actually true. Are you ready to have your perception of reality shaken? Well, let's start off with number 15, the US government poisoned alcohol. Yep, it's not a glitch. You heard that right. During Prohibition, the US government wasn't just banning booze, it was straight up poisoning it. The 18th Amendment, passed in 1920, outlawed the sale and production of alcohol, but not drinking it. So Americans got creative. Bootleggers hijacked industrial-grade alcohol, cleaned it up chemically, and sold it on the streets. Business is business. But the government, well, they weren't having it. To fight back, they made industrial alcohol even deadlier, loading it with methyl alcohol, kerosene, chloroform, and acetone. And when people still drank it anyway, they added 10% more methanol, turning every shot into a death shot. New York City's chief medical examiner, Charles Norris, called it out loudly. Still, in 1926, 400 people died from poisoned booze. The next year, 700. Let's be clear, this wasn't an accident. The US government weaponized chemistry against its own citizens, just to win a moral war no one was following. The moral of this story is simple: don't drink if you want to live. Number 14, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. This sounds like horror fiction, except it happened. In 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service launched what they called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. It involved 600 black men, 39 with syphilis, 2,000 without. They were promised free medical care. What they got was a 40-year lie. Even when penicillin became widely available in the 1940s as a proven cure, doctors intentionally withheld it. They just watched the disease eat away at these men mentally, physically, and generationally. Well, only so they could track how syphilis progresses when left untreated. That's it. That was the science. The study was supposed to last 6 months. It ran until 1972. It only ended after a whistleblower leaked it to the Associated Press. The fallout: a $10 million settlement, public outrage, and a broken trust in the system that's still bleeding today. Let that sit, 40 years of silence while people died, all in the name of data. Number 13, the polio vaccine that was secretly contaminated. From 1954 to 1963, nearly every kid in America lined up for their polio shot. What they didn't know was that millions of those vaccines were laced with a monkey virus called SV40. This wasn't some fringe rumor, it's in medical journals, congressional testimonies, and briefly the CDC's own website before it mysteriously vanished. Jonas Salk's vaccine used kidney cells from rhesus monkeys to treat whatever it was made for, but there was just one tiny problem. Some of those monkeys were carrying SV40, and that virus, it's been found in brain and lung tumors in both children and adults. Even after scientists figured it out, contaminated oral vaccines kept being handed out until and guess what? The government didn't hit the brakes immediately. The public stayed in the dark. Some experts say the link to human cancer isn't proven. Others say that's a PR move. Either way, 100 million Americans and many more around the world got injected with a virus nobody signed up for, and nobody answered for it. Number 12, the Gulf of Tonkin lie that launched a war. In August 1964, the USS Maddox supposedly came under attack by North Vietnamese boats in the Gulf of Tonkin, not once but twice. Now here's the very lieful part: that second incident on August 4 never happened. Radar glitches, misread signals, maybe even panic. But no, there was enemy fire or boats. Just confusion spun into a war. Still, the US used it as a green light. Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, giving President Johnson the go-ahead to fully dive into Vietnam. And the result, a brutal war that dragged on for years, killing over 58,000 American troops and countless Vietnamese civilians. For decades, the truth sat in classified files. Then, in 2005, the NSA finally admitted the second attack was a mirage, a fake threat that snowballed into one of the most catastrophic conflicts in U.S. history. This wasn't just bad intel, it was a manipulated moment, used to sell a war the public never signed up for. Number 11. CIA secretly dosed civilians with LSD. MK Ultra. It sounds like the name of a sci-fi villain. In reality, it was a government program where the CIA literally drugged people to see if they could break or control their minds. They used LSD, sensory deprivation, electroshock therapy, and other nightmare fuel on real people who had no clue what was happening. Students, prisoners, patients, even everyday citizens. No consent. Just a clipboard and a lie. Hospitals, universities, and prisons were paid to keep quiet. Heroin addicts were bribed with more heroin. And when things went sideways, they just buried it. One guy, Frank Olson, was dosed without warning and died days later. Official story, he jumped out of a hotel window. But come on. In '73, right before Congress started sniffing around, the CIA's director ordered everything destroyed. Gone. Erased. Except some files survived. MK Ultra wasn't some rumor. It was real. And the most terrifying part, no one ever paid for it. They experimented on civilians, then shrugged it off. Number 10. CIA raised a Soviet sub in secret. Imagine this. It's the Cold War. Tensions are on max volume, and the Soviets lose a nuclear-armed submarine somewhere in the Pacific. So what does the CIA do? Quietly builds a fake mining ship, sails out, and tries to yank the whole thing off the ocean floor. The mission, Project Azorian. The goal, grab Soviet nukes, decrypt intel, and act like it never happened. The whole thing was buried in a top-secret file labeled Jennifer, which sounds way too casual for a potential nuclear heist. They teamed up with billionaire Howard Hughes to create the Glomar Explorer, a ship so weirdly specific it raised eyebrows. And yeah, they actually did recover part of the sub, hauled it straight to Hawaii like it was just another Tuesday. For years, when asked, the CIA gave the iconic line, "We can neither confirm nor deny." That phrase, born here. So yeah, America hijacked a Soviet nuke sub and gaslit the world about it. That happened. Number 9. Bohemian Grove and the giant owl situation. It sounds ridiculous on paper. Powerful men meeting in the California woods, chanting around a 40-foot stone owl named Moloch, while Walter Cronkite's voice booms over loudspeakers. But Bohemian Grove? Very real. CBS, NBC, and ABC all confirmed it. So did the list of attendees, U.S. presidents, CEOs, military brass, and media tycoons. The Bohemian Club, founded in 1872, became an elite playground where world-shaping conversations happened behind closed trees. In 1942, the Grove hosted a meeting that helped launch the Manhattan Project. Yeah, the atomic bomb was brainstormed between cocktails and pagan cosplay. Are they sacrificing goats? Probably not. But weird rituals, secret handshakes, and drunken frat boy antics? Absolutely. It's less Eyes Wide Shut and more old money summer camp. The point isn't what they do, it's who's doing it, and who isn't allowed in. Behind the owl there's power, and power doesn't get together in the woods for nothing. And we're sure you all agree with us. Number 8, a teen girl's testimony helped start a war. In 1990, a 15-year-old Kuwaiti girl named Nayira stood before Congress and told the world that she saw Iraqi soldiers rip babies out of incubators and leave them to die on the cold hospital floor. That moment hit the press like wildfire and pushed public opinion straight toward war. The truth, that heartbreaking story was orchestrated by a PR firm. Hill and Knowlton, working for a group called Citizens for a Free Kuwait, scripted the whole thing. Oh, and Nayira, she wasn't just a witness, she was the daughter of Kuwait's ambassador to the UN. Amnesty International backed her story at first. But once it all came out, they and others walked it back. Fast. The story wasn't necessarily false, but the context was buried and the bias was hidden. By the time the truth unraveled, America was already knee-deep in the Persian Gulf. A single emotional testimony sold like a blockbuster trailer helped sell a war. Number 7. Operation Paperclip. Right after World War II, the US made a bold move. Recruit Nazi scientists to help us beat the Soviets. Sounds messed up? That's because it was. It was called Operation Paperclip, and it brought more than 1,500 German scientists, engineers, and technicians into America. Officially, President Truman said no one deeply tied to the Nazi Party was allowed in. Unofficially, the military scrubbed Nazi resumes like it was spring cleaning. Guys like Wernher von Braun, who helped build Hitler's V-2 rockets, ended up leading NASA's space program. Others, like Hubertus Strughold, who had ties to horrific human experiments, got shiny new American jobs. Their files were altered, their war crimes buried. The US didn't just look the other way, we erased the paper trail completely, all in the name of beating the Soviets in space and tech. So, yeah, America's space program, it didn't just shoot for the moon, it was built on selective amnesia and Nazi brains. Number 6. The Dalai Lama was on the CIA payroll. We all know the Dalai Lama as a peaceful, smiling symbol of compassion. But here's the plot twist. Back in the 1960s, he was also on the CIA payroll. According to declassified documents, the US was secretly funneling cash $1.7 million per year to support the Tibetan resistance against China. Part of that, a $180,000 salary straight to the Dalai Lama himself. Was he a spy? Not exactly. But he definitely wasn't just sipping tea and meditating while monks fought with slingshots. The goal was clear: keep China unstable, and Tibet was the perfect geopolitical pressure point. Of course, once the documents went public, the whole thing became awkward. The Dalai Lama later admitted he knew about the funding, but claimed it was for the movement, not personal gain. Still, the next time you see a peaceful monk smiling for the cameras, just know the Cold War had its hands in everything, even robes and prayer flags. Number 5. US planned fake terror attacks. So here's one they don't teach in school. Back in 1962, America's top military minds had a bright idea: fake terrorist attacks on US soil, blame Cuba, and use the chaos to start a war. This wasn't some rogue suggestion either. It had a name: Operation Northwoods. They planned to blow up US ships, hijack planes, and even stage mock funerals for fake victims. One suggestion: if astronaut John Glenn's rocket exploded, just pin it on Cuba. Real casual, real insane. This madness was sent to Defense Secretary Robert McNamara. A few days later, JFK himself shut it down, then quietly removed General Lyman Lemnitzer, the man behind the plan. James Bamford, who unearthed the documents, said it best: the military wasn't just thinking crazy, they were ready to act. The only reason it didn't happen, a president who still had a conscience. So next time someone tells you false flags are just internet noise, remind them the US military literally had one written, approved, and almost executed. We got lucky. That's it. Number 4. The government really is spying on you. It's not paranoia if it's true. And when it comes to surveillance, the US government stopped pretending a long time ago. By 2016, agencies had made over 86,000 requests for user data from just 3 companies: Facebook, Google, and Apple. Let that sink in. They weren't just watching terrorists, they were pulling data from your timeline, inbox, and cloud without so much as a heads up. Thanks to whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, we learned the NSA had global listening programs like PRISM and XQI Score, collecting data from regular people with 0 warrants. No crime is needed. No court approval, just mass surveillance, packaged as national security. Even your webcam, yeah, it's been used. The FBI literally admitted they can activate your camera without the light turning on. So next time you see that little lens staring at you, maybe tape it. The worst part, it's all legal, because they wrote the rules. Number 3, Canada literally tried to build a gaydar. In the 1960s, the Canadian government got so caught up in Cold War paranoia that they decided that being gay was a national security risk. And their solution? Build a literal gay detection machine. No, serious. They hired a psychology professor to design a device that could identify gay men in the public sector. His invention measured pupil dilation while subjects were shown erotic images. The theory? If your eyes lingered too long on same-sex photos, the machine would out you. It sounds like a twisted sci-fi prop, but it was real. It got used, and it ruined lives. Over 400 men were fired from government positions, the military, and the Mounties, all based on this nonsense fruit machine. This wasn't some fringe policy. It was federally funded, researched, and implemented. And while Canada eventually apologized, it doesn't erase the fact that a government once tried to engineer technology to detect human desire like some Orwellian lie detector for love. Number 2, the Illuminati and the USA. Alright, this one's weird and just a little too clever to be a coincidence. If you type itanamuli.com, that's Illuminati spelled backward, into your browser, it redirects to the NSA's official website. Yep, try it. It still worked. Now, does that mean there's an underground society of elites pulling the strings of world governments from a secret lair? Not exactly. But also, not exactly. While most of the Illuminati runs the world talk belongs to YouTube deep dives and Reddit rabbit holes, there's something undeniably eerie about a hyperlink trolling the entire internet and pointing straight to America's biggest surveillance agency. Is it a joke? A troll? A digital wink from someone with access? No one's taken credit. And the NSA's sure not talking. But in a world where secret operations, covert funding, and backdoor data mining are all very real, this one feels less like a joke and more like a little truth dressed up as a prank. Number 1, US funded a war with secret Iran arms deal. Alright, this one's messy. During the Reagan years, America was publicly beefing with Iran, but behind the scenes, we were selling them weapons, and then using that money to fund rebels in Nicaragua. The setup was sketchy from the start. Iran was supposed to help release American hostages in Lebanon. In return, they'd get missiles, but instead of stopping there, the profits went straight to the Contras, anti-communist fighters Congress had already banned us from supporting. Once it leaked in 1986, the Reagan administration scrambled hard. Denials, shredded documents. I don't recall became the phrase of the year. Oliver North, caught in the middle, took the heat, but most officials walked. Charges? Pardoned. Reagan's own role? Still debated. The Iran-Contra affair wasn't just a bad look, it was an actual crime, tangled in red tape, secrecy, and selective memory. Your tax dollars funded a secret war, and the government didn't even try to pretend otherwise. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.